Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and they're going to share some very exciting information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is Billy Arcement. Billy has been speaking professionally for over 30 years, and the content that Billy primarily speaks on is personal and organizational leadership. Billy has spoken both nationally and internationally and is based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Billy has two books. One is Searching for Success. The other is Journey on Holy Ground. He also has a new book coming out soon called Leading Yourself and Leading Others. Billy, that's quite an impressive resume. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity and just blessed to have time to share a message with your audience.
And likewise, we're really glad to have you here. Now, I'd like to kick off the show by asking you if you can tell the listeners a little bit about your speaking business and how you help your clients.
Well, as you said, I focus on leadership. So what I do is a fairly detailed assessment on the front end of what the desired outcomes are, be it a keynote like I did last week in Mississippi, or whether it's a training seminar like I'll be doing next month in Baton Rouge. I always get with the meeting planner and say, what do you want to happen? And then I just work to make it happen. Okay,
excellent. So let's step back. I'm curious to find out how you got started speaking. What's your background like, and growing up, and how did you transition into the great speaking business that you have today?
Well, I actually decided I wanted to be a teacher when I was 13. I remember it very dramatically. I had a great influential teacher at that stage, and I wanted to be a teacher. And I did teach for about 6 years. And when starvation was in the forefront, I decided it was time to do something else. So I left teaching and moved to industry in the private sector, and was moved into management in a little less than 5 years, which was my goal. And I got sent to some training seminars by my company. And the very first one I went to, I was mesmerized by the speaker, and as a result, just kind of said very arrogantly, gee whiz, I can do that. And 35 years later, I'm still learning how to do that. So it's a challenging profession, but that was my inspiration. Roy Hatton from Jackson, Mississippi, first professional speaker I heard, who just literally changed the whole direction of my life. So that's how I got started.
That's awesome.
I love to teach, and that's why I do it.
So what's the most inspirational situation that you've had where you've taken an individual who was in a pretty bad situation and was able to help them through encouraging words or coaching or teaching your leadership principles, were actually able to lift them up to a higher place?
I'm actually currently working with a bank executive who really wants to improve performance. And we meet one-on-one. This is on my consulting side of my business, not the speaking side.
Okay.
And I've worked with him one-on-one, and we have set a progress goal. And the last thing I told him that sort of, I guess, hit a light bulb, I used the word awareness, which I use quite often. And I'm really working hard to make him aware of what's happening in his life and what he needs to change to become what he says he wants to be. So I'm kind of molding and mentoring that way. And I do the same thing pretty much in my audiences. I worked 7 years for a car dealership in New Orleans, working with their salespeople and their management people to make them better, more efficient. So I guess I did something right to hang around for 7 years.
Now, you bring up an interesting topic or word, awareness. Awareness, is that something that you that you were moved to share with him, or is that something that you basically coach with all of your participants? And then the second question is, how do you teach them to become more aware? Is it an internal thing, a physical, spiritual? How does that work?
Well, I think the word awareness sort of popped up in my lexicon in the last 2-3 years. I've used it in a space intermittently, I should say, in my training, but I did a lot of safety training, which is a little bit of a sidebar leadership thing I do. And I kept telling the audience, you need to be aware of your surroundings so that you can work safer. And I transitioned that into my other programs. And I say you have to be aware of what's happening in your life. How is your thinking going on? What are the results you're getting? Are you happy or you're not happy? Are you disillusioned or you're excited? Whatever you feel, you have to be able to recognize that. And then you have to be able to recognize if you're getting the results you say you want. If you don't, then you have to be aware enough to figure out what's getting in the way. And it's not an easy task, but it's just kind of what awareness is. And I use it in my life in developing my business. Just this morning, I kind of wrote on that in my monthly newsletter, coincidentally, just being aware of what's happening in your life.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful, because as you were saying that, what came to me was, we're constantly moving towards some target, some goal, and if we're not aware, or if we don't do that awareness check, we can veer substantially from that goal. So I thought about the words navigation, awareness, adjustment, and kind of repeat. So that little cycle: navigation, awareness, adjustment, repeat. So that's pretty powerful, what I got from what you just said there.
Well, thank you. Actually, if you go back to the quality movement, it's really the process you use. You take action, you assess, and then you adjust.
Okay.
The 3 A's of the quality process that I worked for a number of years in the private sector. So I'm taking a little bit of that mindset that I learned over almost a 30-year career doing quality management to transfer to quality lifestyle. It's the same scenario. So that's kind of what I do as best I can.
Yeah, and quality permeates and transfers through every area of our life. I mean, you were working with quality with could have probably a manufacturing company, but also quality in our lives. If we're not aware, then that's going to affect the quality that our lives are produced.
Yeah, we kind of have to pay attention to the excuses we make. That was the nature of the newsletter I'm writing right now. I basically said, what excuses are you making? And we have to be aware of how we are stopping ourselves with our excuses and our mindset, and more importantly, the kind of thinking that we expose ourselves to, both from others and within our own mind. And once we are aware of what's happening, we can be much more profitable and productive. I also like to force people to take a time study for 2 weeks. Every 15 minutes, you log down what you're doing. Don't skew the data, just live your life, but write down what you're doing. Then at the end of that period, evaluate, assess, as I just talked about. What are you doing? And are you really doing things that will get you where you want to go, or are you just doing things to stay busy? And once we define what that is, then we can adjust and do new actions and change the whole focus of where we are going and what we're doing.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me right now, the things that you're saying, how much they are resonating with me and my experience. I was a financial analyst, was responsible for 18 manufacturing facilities, and time studies was a huge part, or industrial engineering, of what I had to do to make sure that my budgets, my standards were correct and reset every year. So I would go out and have an industrial engineer with a stopwatch, time, how long it took the lady over in Mexico to actually put the wire harness together. And I started doing that because I started a new project, and it was taking me, a little bit of time to do it. So I started timing myself with my iPhone with one of those stopwatches, and I was able to cut the time from maybe like 6 minutes to about 2 minutes by being aware of my processes and writing them down. So that's
you took the word out of my mouth. I was going to tell you, now you're aware of what you're doing.
Exactly.
That's what gets you better results.
Yeah. So this is wow. It's kind of getting goosebumps here talking to you. So this is pretty awesome.
I'm happy we're helping.
So now, what are some of the problems? What are some of the popular misconceptions that people have about what you do, and about the business that you provide on the consulting side?
I think people, in addition to not being aware, just really sometimes don't decide where they want to go, and they don't have the discipline. I think self-discipline is difficult to do. I struggle with it constantly because I'm easily diverted. I can be focused like heck on something, and a little bird comes along and my mind shifts to the outdoors. But I'm aware that that's how I am.
Right.
Okay, so I'm more able to bring myself back, but the discipline is what's often missing in our life to help us get a better focus on what we want to do. It's a question of really, really channeling your focus, almost like a beam from the sun through a magnifying glass. You've heard that story in science, how it can start a fire because it's all the energy is focused on one spot.
Yes.
So it's about focus. It's about discipline.
And do you work with your clients to help develop discipline?
Yeah, I would give them techniques, strategies, methodologies to get more out of that time, first off, and to help them focus on really what they want. That's one of the hardest things for me and a lot of people to come up with. What do you really want out of life? What is your purpose? And, why are you here? Those are pretty powerful questions that most people don't take the time to answer. And if you do, it can be revealing, it can be scary, but it'll be powerful if you do it the right way.
Now, during the last minute that we have here, I'd like for you to convey one central message and theme to the listeners, to where as though if they don't get anything else from this discussion, I want them to get this. Could you do that?
Sure. I think I've used the word just a minute ago, and I'll repeat it because it's key. We have to have a focus in life. Very difficult to do many times, but we all have focus when we're successful. And then we have to organize ourselves in a systematic fashion. That is, we have to have time-saving events and methodologies to do things more proficiently. And then we have to remove clutter from our life, which is doing anything that gets in the way of what your focus is. I have studied success methodologies for over 30 years. Those three factors are always present in individuals and or organizations.
Very, very powerful words of wisdom. Now, if the listeners would like to get in contact with your organization and learn more about what you do and possibly utilize your services, how can they do that?
My website is searchingforsuccess.com, same name as my first book. You can just query my name, Billy Arcement, Arcement, but more importantly, just go to searchingforsuccess.com and you will find me.
Okay, excellent. Well, Billy, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. That was very powerful information that you shared with the listeners. I appreciate it, and I know that they appreciate it as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.